Hello everyone, welcome to Super Informal Python. I'm Alicia, she, her pronouns, from the Alicia 426 channel. This is just an introduction to Python, how to use it, how to, install it and get it set up, and what you can do with it. So it's going to be a very basic overview. Uh, if you are at all intrigued or your interest is piqued, just, go out and do some more research on your own, okay? So what is Python? Python is what's called it's an interpretive language, which means it's not compiled. It's the instructions are executed at runtime instead of compiling. What that means is that it's slower, but you never compile. I mean, and by slower, I don't mean like it's gonna be sluggish. It's gonna be like a lot slower than C, but C is like lightning fast anyway. So do Python just like that. And you see I have Python 3.9, which is the latest release of Python. That comes with a certain set of disadvantages, not gonna lie, but I'd like leaving on the bleeding edge. Ideally, you'd have either Python 3.7, 3.8, or 3.9 is usable for most things, just some libraries have to catch up, you know? Python is powerful not just because it has like a lot of core functionalities, has like a really good math module, so it has a ton of constants in there. But it's mostly because of how extensible it is. There's this thing called, for example, Selenium or Selenium or whatever. It's a WebDriver. And what that means is you download a program, a WebDriver program from like Chrome or Firefox, or if you're suffering from severe self-hatred, Internet Explorer. I think there is one. I hope there's not. And you can automate. You can just interact with websites with XPaths. So if you don't know what that is, I'll do like a very, very tiny Selenium tutorial later. What I mean is, Python is cool. Really cool. Now, right now, I'm just in my terminal. If you're in Fedora, it would be sudo dnf install Python, but it comes as a default in most distributions, so no worries there. You'll just have to type Python in and then Control D to exit if you don't want to be in the shell anymore. Now that's the interpreter itself. You can type, Python and functions and whatever, and it'll do it. But you can also open up an editor or an IDE. Now, in my case, there's two things I like. One is Atom. There's two editors I like. I really like the Atom editor. It's really good. It's I haven't opened it. I've been using the other one. Atom's pretty good. Just tell it to no. You're just gonna have like a folder file structure here and your code here, and you can use Alt View toggle menu bar, and that way, yeah, I like to keep like all my screen real estate. So if you can do that on Atom. Now, why Atom? Well, Atom is pretty extensible. It has good auto completion out of the box. You can also install a thing called Kite Engine that's going to really help with Python auto completion, but there's other auto completion things you can use. Back to the task at hand. So I either use Atom and a terminal to run my code, or I use VS Code, which is more IDE-like, more integrated development environment. So let's go. Now I don't use the filthy Microsoft branded one. No. I'm gonna exit out of this terminal for a second. Oh, caps lock. Alright. I don't use that's the audio recording. Come on. There we go. You see I've got Genome running. I've done a lot of tweaks. I might do a video on that if this one gets enough traction. Okay. So where are we? We're we're in a tutorials folder. So we're going to create a new file. This is new file. You can press Alt if you have it set up the way I do. You can press Alt and you get your menus. The theme I got going on here is Tokyo Night. This is my theme. I found it to be really nice, and it's really good. I use just the Tokyo Night one. It's just really easy on the eyes. That's my preference. Alright, so Python. What do you need to know about Python? Well, depends on what you want to do. If you want to learn the basics, there's a million tutorials that are better than this one. But whatever. Basics.py. Now, first thing you gotta learn. If you're on Windows, this is fucking useless. But if you're on Linux, Mac, or any other Unix operating system, I suspect this is the case in BSD as well, you gotta do what's called a hashbang. This is because if you make your file an executable, here, I'll show you. I'll just put some Python code. See? Autocompletion, right? Classic, hello world. We'll even put the sign up there. Okay. So we save this, and then we run it, right? We run it. We click here, run it. This pops up this terminal. And we can see that we're in the tutorials folder. If we list the files, we get basics.py. So we're going to clear this out. What happens if we do Python basics.py? Oh, well, if I spell it right. Alright, it says hello world, prints hello world. We're good. But what happens if you try to execute it? In Windows, if you do this, it's just going to run it. Because Windows. Because Windows is weird. But in Linux and Unix and Mac, which is basically kind of like Unix, sorta, the Mac fanboys are going to fucking beat me up for this, but I'm really not a Mac user. You can tell. You need the file permission to be. You need to make it executable. So you just do this chmod. Chmod. I can't type for jack today. All right, and you're gonna do a+x all executable for all, and then basics.py. Bingo. And now you do to run an executable in Linux, you just do this. So // and then the file name. Once again, caps lock. I'm still getting used to this keyboard. How did that happen? If it ran all right with like Python, why is that happening? Well, it's because you're telling Bash, you're telling the shell, hey, run this thing. But extensions don't really exist in Linux. They exist only for users' reference. You can have a file called .mp3 and it can be a text file and you can open it with Vim. Here, I will literally show you. Extensions are a lie. So we just do test.mp3. And we open Vim, and we can insert some text. So, hello world. The view. We can right quit. I'll do a like super primer on Vim sometime. And if we do cat on that file, it's text file, even though it says MP3 right there. So what happens? Well, extensions aren't real. File names will be file names. So what does this? Why am I ranting about this? Well, there's no way the system can tell that we're giving it a Python script if we don't tell it, hey, use Python to run this thing. So what we can do is called put a hashbang or some people call it a shebang. I've seen hashbang a bit more. You start with a comment. So comments in Python start with like a pound sign or like a, I guess, hashtag, as the kids say these days. And you go, boom. Then you're going to do user bin Python. Now this is going to change depending on your stuff, right? First, user bin Python this is Python 3.9. So we're running the newest Python. But if for whatever reason you're starting with Python 2, therapy can be affordable. I suggest it. But if you're like in Debian or Ubuntu 18.04 Focal, or like an older distro, CentOS or Triskel Linux, whatever. I'll do a video about Triskel. That thing is awesome. You're gonna have to do this Python 3. So that's what it basically sets the interpreter. So Python 3 in those systems, you're basically it's gonna depend on your Python command. For example, in this system, if I type in Python 2, that gives me Python 2.7. But if I type just Python, that gives me Python 3.9. What happens if I type Python 3? I haven't tried it. 3.9. So you can do Python 3 or Python 2, depending on what version of Python your thing is, your script is, and what version your system has installed or what version you're upgrading to. So you're going to have to pay attention to that. Now this is for Unix and Linux only, and Mac. If you do this on Windows, it's just going to get treated like any other comment, and it's going to get ignored. Alright, so we printed a thing. Good. Variables, we need some stinking variables. You can do a variable. It can be an int or an integer. Python's dynamically typed, so you just name the variable. Some people like camel case, some people like snake case. Personally, I'm a fan of SpongeBob case. So here's a string, right? That's a variable. That's a variable now. And this can be whatever. There's a lot of data types in Python. The big ones you're gonna know is there's integers, floats, so numbers, decimals, whatever. There's strings. There's not really a character type or a char or card type like you can see in Rust or in like more statically. Oh shit, the mic. Typed languages. And there's no arrays by default. So you're gonna have lists and tuples. Lists are mutable. Tuples are not. So you have numbers, you have strings, you have lists. Lists are, what is this on the tin? Just a list of things. So you can do Patrick, Sandy. My typing is so slow, I've seen continents move faster than that. Mr. Krabs, okay. So what do those mean? Let's print them out. Let's print a comma name var, and you can see VS Code. Well, this is not VS Code. This is VS Codium. Let's print them out. This is VS Codium, which VS Code is technically open source, but Microsoft ships it with all of their dirty stuff, dirty branding. There we go. One, the word name, Patrick, Sandy, and Mr. Krabs. And you can call a method, I guess, called type. So you can do print, let's do print again. You can call type a. Type. I'm still getting used to this keyboard. It's a very nice keyboard to type on, but the positioning is like a little like more upwards. So it definitely takes some getting used to. Now, what does dynamically typed mean in this gauge? Oh, thank the heavens for auto-completion. I did not want to type SpongeBob like that. what does dynamically typed means? It just means the language sort of guesses. Oh, it's name var, right? Yeah. See, it's helpful because it takes that. It gives you that, and this is a pretty lightweight IDE. I'm really liking it a lot. Mostly I use Atom, but VS Codium is also pretty good. So VS Codium is just a free, as in freedom, distribution of VS Code, and it's better. So you can see here, class int, that's integer, class string, and class list. Now what happens if we take this SpongeBob and we give it a less ridiculous name? Just call it S. And change these for like regular, these little parentheses. What happens with that? Well, we're going to add here S. And we're going to print it up here as well, I guess. So it's going to have the same contents inside, but check this out. This is a list. This is a tuple. The difference is you can do, I'm just going to copy this and paste it down here. You can do this. So SpongeBob.pop. What's it? 0? Yeah, let's see if that works. I don't remember. What's the difference? Well, Patrick's no longer there because we popped Patrick out of SpongeBob. Ugh, that sounds like some Rule 34 shit. Damn it. All right, so we popped Patrick out of the SpongeBob list. Why? Because lists are mutable. But if we try to do this s.pop, well, it's gonna throw a fit. So let's check it out. Attribute error. Why? Because a tuple is unmutable. It's immutable. You can't change it. It stays how it is. You have to override it. It's like a string. This name var, if I override it, I can't change it. I gotta override it. So you're gonna change that name var. Let's say we want to change it here. We would have to do name var is assigned to. Some people say equals. That's not really accurate. This is equals technically. We'll get into operators later, but name var. And now we have to give it a new value. So let's say we want to add a word to it. We just have to, well, I guess we're getting into a bit of operators here. Alright, why am I doing that? You're gonna see real quick. I'm so used to Vim that alright, in Vim you close with, you save and close with colon right, WQ, which is write and quit. I'm so used to it that I just did it out of instinct. So what happens here? Oh, the cat's meowing. It's adorable. So you can see hello world, and here is, wait, I didn't save, no wonder. Sorry. Let's try this again. There we go. Name, last name. So this is the string. It's still a string, but now it's the first string overwritten with and added the other string. That makes a little sense. Let me to it. Let me explain it better. So what we're doing is we're assigning. Python reads from right to left. So for like variable assignments and stuff. So it says this gets processed first and this. So it takes the current value of name var, which is name, adds space last name to it, and then assigns that to name var, essentially overwrites the variable. And now you can use it. So you gotta overwrite it if it's not mutable. So integers, floats, all those you gotta overwrite. Lists are mutable, so you can like just pop an item to a list. You can append items to a list, which is add items to a list. Next video will cover operators, statements, flow control, and all the good stuff. Thank you for watching the sleep-deprived ramblings of Alicia. Let's see if I can remember the shortcut to end the recording.